The forest was alive with a crisp autumn chill. Amber leaves swirled across the narrow trail as Jareth moved deeper into the woods, his boots crunching softly against mossy earth. He carried a satchel, but his hands rested loosely on the worn strap, the muscles in his forearms taut under the weight of anticipation. Jareth had been tracking strange rumors for days, whispers of a creature, neither fully woman nor beast, prowling near the edge of the old Ashenwood. Hunters called her the fox spirit, and spoke of her in fearful tones, describing her as beautiful yet dangerous. Curiosity gnawed at him. His goal wasn't conquest, it was understanding. By twilight he found her. She crouched in a small clearing, her fur shimmering between silver and gold under the pale moonlight. Her ears twitched, delicate, pointed, and covered in fine sable fur. Her face was human, framed by long copper hair that fell in loose waves, but her eyes glowed an unnatural shade of emerald. She was smaller than he expected, lithe and trembling. Bound by crude rope, her wrists bore marks of struggle. Jareth froze, realizing he had not been hunting her at all. He had stumbled into someone else's trap. Whoever had set this snare had intended harm. Her eyes widened when she saw him, a mixture of fear and defiance sparking within them. "You," she whispered, voice trembling but clear. "You will kill me." "I'm not here to harm you," Jareth said gently, stepping forward. "I was tracking rumors. I didn't expect to find you like this." She stared at him, suspicion sharpening her features. "You humans. They come for us with knives, chains, fire. You don't come to listen." He lowered his hands in peace. "I'm not like them." She studied him for a long moment before letting out a bitter laugh. "You say that now. But I've lived long enough to know promises are empty." Jareth glanced toward the trap. "Let me free you." "No," she said sharply. "It's safer this way. You won't understand. These woods aren't kind to my kind." Her voice cracked. "They think we're monsters. That we deserve to die." There was truth in her words. Jareth had heard enough stories of hunters who never questioned their prey. But he was not one of them. "I want to understand," he said quietly, kneeling beside her. "Please, let me help." Reluctantly, her fingers trembled against the rope. With deliberate care he cut through it. The ropes fell away, but she didn't stand. She curled inward, eyes wary. "You're alive now," he said softly. "Where will you go?" She stared at the ground. "Somewhere far from humans." Her voice was heavy with sorrow. "But I've never known kindness from your kind." Jareth extended a hand. "Walk with me a while. Let me prove you wrong." She hesitated, then slowly rose. Her movement was graceful, almost feline. The moment she stood, the air seemed to shift, soft rustling of leaves, as though the forest itself was aware of her presence. They walked in silence, side by side. Her name, when she finally spoke it, was Lyra. She told him of her life, of forests older than human memory, of hunters who invaded her sanctuary, of tribes of her kind scattered and hunted for sport. She had lived in hiding, trusting no one. Till now. As they reached a quiet brook, she stopped. "Why help me? You could easily have left me." "Because cruelty doesn't have to be the answer," he said simply. His gaze met hers, steady and earnest. "Maybe I can't change the world, but I can choose not to add to its cruelty." Lyra blinked, studying him as if seeing him anew. For a moment, the hardness in her eyes softened. "No one has ever said something like that to me." They sat by the brook, the moonlight painting her fur with silver threads. Her tail flicked nervously. Jareth spoke of the rumors he'd heard, the tales of her kind. She listened quietly. And when she spoke again, her voice was softer. "They call me dangerous. But I've never harmed anyone who didn't hurt me first. I survive because I must." "I believe that," Jareth replied. "But you don't have to survive alone." Her laugh was quiet, almost sad. "You don't know what you're offering me. I know enough to see that you deserve a choice." For hours they spoke. Of survival, trust, fear, and hope. Jareth learned that Lyra was more than a legend. She was a guardian of a forgotten forest, a protector of life hidden from human greed. She had been caught by mistake, yes, but Jareth realized something more profound. Her life and his fate were now entwined. At dawn they reached the forest's edge. Lyra turned toward him, her glowing eyes reflecting the sunrise. "You saved me, human. But kindness is fragile. I don't know if I can trust it again." "Then let me be patient," he said softly. "If trust is fragile, I'll build it slowly. I'll walk with you until you decide." She hesitated, then nodded. For the first time, her stance was not of suspicion but something softer, something like hope. And as she vanished into the forest, she did not look back with fear, but with something unspoken. Jareth stayed at the edge of the trees, watching her disappear. Somewhere deep in his chest, a new resolve had taken root. Sometimes the greatest strength was not in the hunt, but in mercy. And sometimes a mistake could change everything. At dawn they reached the forest's edge. Lyra paused, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon where the first light touched the treetops. The rope was gone, but her stance still held caution, as if she could sense the weight of the choice before her. "You saved me, human," she said quietly. "But kindness is fragile. I've never known it to last." "I don't expect you to believe me immediately," Jareth replied softly. "Trust is earned, not given. But I'll walk with you until you decide whether to trust me." She studied him for a long moment, her tail flicking softly behind her. For the first time her gaze softened. "No one has ever said something like that to me." He nodded. "Maybe that's because no one's asked enough questions before deciding who you are." Lyra gave a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Then she stepped forward, but instead of vanishing immediately into the forest, she lingered. Perhaps mistakes aren't always accidents. Perhaps they are beginnings. With that, she turned into the trees, her form blending seamlessly with shadows and leaves. Jareth remained at the edge of the forest, watching her disappear. Somewhere deep within him, a quiet resolve took root. Sometimes the greatest strength wasn't in the hunt. Sometimes it was in mercy. And sometimes, what seemed like a mistake could become the most important choice of all. The forest fell silent once more, but the air still carried the memory of her presence. Soft, wild, and eternal.